Hi, happy to see me. I am happy to see you always, always, and always. So I am glad to announce to you that today is the last video for this book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that we've been studying since last year. Today we are going to talk about habit 7. Oh my God, I'm excited. I know you are too. Habit 7 is titled Sharpen the Saw. Let's see what it has in store for us. So usually we do our opening quote, so you should be used to this by now. It says, sometimes when I consider what tremendous consequences come from little things, I am tempted to think they are no little things. Truly, truly, they are no little things. This was written by Bruce Barton. This habit was also titled is also titled The Principles of Balanced Self-Renewal. And this section in this book is titled Renewal. Renewal, I wrote it down here. It said self-renewal is achievable by a constant sharpening of the saw. And what does it mean to sharpen the saw? To constantly put to practice all of the habits that we've been learning. You put to practice habit 1, habit 2, down up to habit 6. That is how you sharpen yourself. That is how you sharpen your edges. That is how you keep fit mentally, physically, psychologically, spiritually, by constantly engaging. So I'm going to read us an interesting opening story. It says, suppose you were to come upon someone in the woods, working feverishly to saw down a tree. What are you doing? You ask. Can't you see? Comes the impatient reply. I am sawing down this tree. You look exhausted, you exclaim. How long have you been at it? Over 5 hours, he returns. And I am bit. This is hard work. Why don't you take a break for a few minutes and sharpen that saw? You inquire. I'm sure it will go a lot faster. I don't have time to sharpen the saw, the man says emphatically. I'm too busy sawing. He's busy doing a work he is not even equipped for. He really wants to do the work. He so much wants to do the work, but he's not even equipped for it. The author said, habit 7 is taking time to sharpen the saw. It surrounds the other habits on the 7 habits paradigm because it is the habit that makes all others possible. So you have to constantly renew the things that you know, the things that you've learned. That's how you are able to go through. When you have a sharp saw, you can go through any wall. You can penetrate anything. You can penetrate anyone. But you have to spend quality time sharpening the saw. The author said that the most important investment anyone can make is investment in self. It cannot be overflogged. It cannot be overemphasized. You have to make investments in yourself, on yourself to develop. That is how you grow. That's how you become better at life. That's how you become better at things. That's how you become better in anything. You have to self-develop or you self-destruct. There are 4 dimensions of renewal. 4 of it. I'll put up the diagram in a second so that we can see as we go. There's the physical dimension, there's the mental dimension, there's the social/emotional dimension, and there's the spiritual dimension. Under the physical dimension, you have exercise, nutrition, stress management. Under the mental dimension, you have reading, visualizing, planning, and writing. Under the social/emotional, you have service empathy, synergy, intrinsic security. And under the spiritual, you have value, clarification, and commitment, study, and meditation. I would like us to discuss a little around all these dimensions, for clarity. So for the physical dimension, we mentioned that it involves exercise, nutrition, and stress management. So this dimension involves the caring of our physical body. Exercise, stress management, blah, 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 and nutrition. You get. So we have to care for our physical body to be able to even put to practice the habits that we're learning. I have to be proactive about my health. I have to be proactive about managing my schedule so that I don't have to stress manage or crisis manage. It is very important. Then remember when we talked about, I think it was in habit 2, thereabout, when we talked about the quadrant activities, where we had the quadrant 1, the quadrant 2, the quadrant 3, and the quadrant 4. We stated that the quadrant 2 activities, they don't press on you. They don't. But you have to press on them. They don't press on you till it becomes, like deadly. You don't exercise, you don't take care of the food that you eat, you don't take care of your body, you don't pay attention to a lot of things. These are quadrant 2 activities. You will not see the implication today, but as you spend your life, it becomes a problem when you neglected those part of your life. So exercising is a quadrant 2 activity. Your body won't tell you, if you don't exercise, I'm not going out. But if you don't exercise over a long period of time, you would have health issues. So we have to pay attention to exercising. It is very important. And and quadrant 2 activities, if neglected, take us back to quadrant 1, where we have to stress manage and crisis manage and blah blah blah. So we have to spend time on quadrant 2 so that we don't have to run to quadrant 1. Very important. The essence of renewing the physical dimension is to sharpen the soul, to exercise our bodies on a regular basis in a way that will preserve and enhance our capacity to work and adapt and enjoy. So we see that exercise, we cannot do without it. Now or later, it will be needed. So better now that it's not necessary, that it's not a matter of life and death, than later. Always be sure, to check with your doctor or your trainer, your professional trainer, what kind of exercise suits your body type so you don't overstretch. So onto the spiritual dimension, right? It involves value creation, commitment, study, and meditation. The writer said that renewing the spiritual dimension provides leadership to your life. It is highly related to habit 2. And what is habit 2? Beginning with the end in mind. The spiritual dimension is your core, your center, your commitment to your value system. It is a very private area of life and a supremely important one. It draws upon the sources that inspire and uplift you and tie you to the timeless truths of all humanity. And people do it very, very differently. Of course, that's why we have different religions, different belief systems, different ideologies, and all of that, because people engage in the spiritual dimension differently. So the author quoted a religious leader called David O. McKay. Said the greatest battles of life are fought out daily in the silent chambers of the soul. If you win the battles there, if you settle the issues that inwardly conflict, you feel a sense of peace, a sense of knowing what you're about, and you find that the public victories, where you tend to think cooperatively to promote the welfare and good of other people and to be genuinely happy for other people's success, will flow naturally. So we see why the spiritual is important in spite of how we try to practice the dimension. we can't do without it. The next dimension we'll be talking about is the mental dimension. A lot of persons think that after you've gotten to the apex of your formal education, you have no business, constantly sharpening the saw of your mental saw. They feel that it's not necessary. Some persons even just stay like in their discipline. So I'm a doctor, I shouldn't, delve into art once in a while to, want to know what's going on there. I'm a musician, I shouldn't know what's happening in the medical world and all of that. That's not it's not advisable to live that way. As long as life is concerned, everything is interrelated, and the earlier we understood that, the better it would be for us. So the few elements that make up the mental dimension, according to the author, is reading, visualizing, which is to form a mental image, planning, and writing. So it says continuing education, continually honing and expanding the mind is vital mental renewal. Sometimes that involves the external discipline of the classroom or systemized study programs. More often, it does not. Proactive people can figure out many ways to educate themselves. So, like I said, you mustn't stay in certain fields. You can delve into a lot to excite your mind. That is how to mental soul. So here's the author's recommendation. He said, I highly recommend starting with a goal of a book a month, then a book every 2 weeks, then a book a week. The person who doesn't read is no better off than the person who cannot read. So we have to distinguish ourselves by putting into practice the things that we know. That's how we stand out. Because reading and writing are activities that engages the mind. It is advisable that we keep journals of experiences and thoughts and ideas and insights. That's how we get great ideas. You see, people who do music, they write about the songs that they sing. People who tell stories, they have these ideas, so they write about them. So as well as people who invent things, it comes to mind and they put it down. So it's advisable that we start keeping journals of our days' experiences. By so doing, it'll help us to come up with new things, never seen, never heard, fresh hot. It is said that wars are won in the general stand. Sharpening the saw in the first 3 dimensions, the physical, the spiritual, and the mental, is a practice I call the daily private victory. That's what the author said. And I commend to you the simple practice of spending 1 hour a day, every day, doing it. 1 hour the rest of your life. I recently heard that 1 hour I've discovered is that 1 hour is 4% of our daily allocation of 24 hours. It's 4%, yeah. So when we invest 4% of our day in developing ourselves, over time we would have invested so much, and of course you reap what you sow. Another paragraph here says, someday in the years to come you'll be wrestling with the great temptation or trembling under the great sorrow of your life, but the real struggle is here now it is being decided whether in the day of your supreme sorrow or temptation you shall miserably fail or gloriously conquer. Character cannot be made except by a steady, long, continued process. So it's a continued thing. When we started, we said renewal is, a continued process of sharpening yourself so you can be able to put to practice all of the habits that we've learned. Renewal, as we earlier defined, is the constant sharpening of the saw. And that is what we are supposed to do continuously. Now, on to social and emotional dimension. It involves service, empathy, synergy, intrinsic security. All the other dimensions that we had addressed, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, deals with the area of private victory. That's the habit 1, 2, and 3. But for social/emotional dimension, It deals with habit 4, 5, and 6. That's the public victory, which deals with other people. So he said success in habits 4, 5, and 6, which is what social/emotional dimension is about. Said it's not primarily a matter of intellect, it's primarily a matter of emotion. It's highly related to our essence of personal security. If our personal security comes from sources within ourselves, then we have the strength to practice the habit of public victory. If we are emotionally insecure, even though we may be intellectually very advanced, practicing habit 4, 5, and 6 with people who think differently on jugular issues are serious, life issues, can be terribly threatening. So when we were talking about public victory, it has to do with you versus other people. So you have to build a high level self-security to be able to deal with other people. That's what this paragraph is actually trying to say. It also goes ahead to say that peace of mind comes when your life is in harmony with the true principles and values, and in no other way. So if you're in harmony with true principles and values, that is when you would actually have peace of mind. There are values and principles that govern life. You cannot be at peace if you are not supporting those principles and values. There's intrinsic security that comes from service, from helping other people in a meaningful way. One important source in your work, when you see yourself in a contributive and creative mood, really making a difference. Another source is anonymous service. No one knows it, and no one necessarily will, and that's not the concern. The concern is blessing the lives of other people. Influence, not recognition, becomes the motive. Remember, this is you versus people. You should be concerned about how you can affect lives, how you can change lives, and not really how you want people to recognize you. People who are actually effective don't think how much of themselves they want to be recognized, but how much of people they want to help. And thy neighbor's love. To earn is to work for it. So work to earn your neighbor's love. Be true to yourself. If you are asking for long life from the universe, what are you going to do with that life? Bless someone with it. Another important subtitle of this chapter, or subtopic in this chapter, is called scripting others. While we're trying to sharpen our saw and while we're trying to become the best version of ourselves, there are people in this world who are dependent on what people say about them to become the things that they want to be. Here's how the author puts it. Most people are a function of the social mirror, scripted by the opinions, the perception, the paradigms of the people around them. As interdependent people, you and I come from a paradigm which includes the realization that we are a part of that social mirror. Our society would never run out of people with low self-esteem. I mean, once in a while, we are unsure of ourselves. We want to take, embark on a new journey, and we are uncertain. We don't even know if we are going to succeed. And at those points in our lives, there were people positioned there by the universe to, galvanize us to get to do what we were supposed to do. So this is it. It's always advisable to do the same for other people. Help people seek the best version of themselves by telling them what they can be and not what they are currently. When we see the best in people, it is advisable that we don't keep quiet about it. We declare it to the people. We say, look, I know that you can get to the apex of your career. You can be the best in your discipline. You can do this, you can do that. Don't give up. Don't lose faith. You can come out top class and all of that. We must declare the good that we see in people and not the bad that they see in themselves. That is how we help them to build self-security and have a good self-esteem. And by declaring the best in people that we see, we flood out the negative images they have of themselves and flood in positive ones. So they don't have a choice but to believe when we do that consistently, before you realize it, the person or persons begin to believe in themselves just as we believe in them. And we must know that what we reflect to people about themselves actually influences them. If you call somebody a dull person, they become dull-headed. If you say you are intelligent, you are super smart, they begin to act that way. So we must always encourage people to be the best version of themselves by telling them what we see and what we know they could become and not what they are today. The author penned down, he said, Goethe taught, treat a man as he is and he will remain as he is. Treat a man as he can and he should be, and he will become as he can and should be. We should when we were talking about emotional bank account, this is how we actually make huge deposits in the lives of people, by telling them you can be a better person than you are now. And by the time we make them believe it, they start becoming it, and we have changed their life. So for all the 4 dimensions we've talked about today, the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, which is the social as well, and the mental, we must learn to balance things out, with them. We cannot attend to the physical and neglect the spiritual, or neglect the mental and treat the social/emotional. Everything is important. The more you improve in any of the habits that lead to independence, which is habit 1, 2, and 3, the more effective you will be in interdependent situations, which is habit 4, 5, and 6. And renewal, which is sharpening the soul, habit 7, is the process of renewing all the habits. So this goes to show that the faithful fulfillment of any of the habits would lead to the fulfillment of the next. So if I learn to become proactive, the fact that I have dedicated my life to be proactive encourages me to want to put first things first, encourages me to want to begin with the end in mind, encourages me to want to think win-win, to want to seek to understand before I can be understood, to synergize and to sharpen the soul. They are all important. So we have to take it one step at a time. That's how to encourage ourselves. So the author said that our conscience plays an important role in the fulfillment of all of these habits and dimensions. He penned down the quotes here by Madame de Stael. I hope I pronounced that right. The voice of conscience is so delicate that it is easy to stifle it, but it is also so clear that it is impossible to mistake it. Your conscience is the judge you have over yourself. And if you do not try to stifle it, it'll help you engage in these activities and these habits and become the best you that ever lived. As I begin to conclude this habit, I'm happy to do it. I'd just like to talk about what the author referred to as the upward spiral. It involves 3 activities: learn, commit, and do. I'll just put up the diagram now so you see. Renewal is supposed to be a continuous process. So you learn, you commit, you do. You don't stop at it. You continue all through your life. That is how to give your best always to life. The people who stop learning, who stop committing to doing what they learn, that is how they begin to die. Learn, commit, and do on a daily. So a quick recap or a rundown of our habit 1 to habit 7. Habit 1 is be proactive. Habit 2 is to begin with the end in mind. Habit 3 is to, put first things first. Habit 4 is to think win-win. Habit 5 is seek to understand and then to be understood. Habit 6 is to synergize, and habit 7 is to sharpen the saw. We have big lessons from each of these habits that we cannot sweep under the carpet. So you can always come back here to, watch these videos again and again and again. They'll always be here for you to answer questions that were not clear. Keep commenting, keep watching, keep liking, keep sharing. I am also happy to bring to us the next book that we are studying. I am going to keep us, in suspense. It's a very interesting book. I read it sometime back in 2019, and I think that we should also, learn from it. Don't worry, it's a Nigerian book, but trust me, this book is laced with stuffs that will blow your mind. So stay tuned for our next video. Thank you so much for watching. Keep subscribing, keep liking, keep sharing, keep loving us. We love you right back. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye.